Welcome to DomiNations. My name is Mark, and today it's all about legendary artifacts. So, just to start in general, to make this already long video as short as possible, let's give some general information. First, this video is about legendary artifacts, and it should be an easy, convenient overview and a summary of, as well as recommendation for usage, which artifacts are there currently. I mean, they are getting more, so in the future probably this video will be outdated, but to the current point of time, I'm pretty sure I got all of the legendary available artifacts. You can easily compare them and then decide for yourself, if you have now an overview, which of them are interesting for me. And probably if the next event pops up and shows you an artifact and you would have been unsecure whether shall I buy it, shall I not buy it, now you will get the overview and then you can decide more properly for yourself, is it worth for me to purchase this artifact, or are there even better ones out there which I should chase for. Like always, there is no claim for completeness, so if I miss an artifact, please, like always, give your suggestions and feedback down in the commentary section. But let's start. What basically are legendary artifacts? If you are probably new to the game, you don't know it. In the museum we have the multiplayer, so the main hall, as well as the Worldwar hall. And for all of those we have different kinds of artifacts, such as marked with a sword, upwards, offensive, with a helmet, defensive, jewelry, pottery artifacts, and from all of those we can maximum activate 2 of them, but then we have also legendary artifacts. In some we can activate in a maximum of 3 legendaries. If you got to the information age, the currently highest age, you will be able to set up the Hermitage Museum as World Wonder, which will enable you to activate a 4th legendary artifact. So what distinguishes legendary artifact from other ones? First, they have additional bonuses, which means that there are some bonuses which you can only find which are unique to the legendary artifacts and not to be found in other ones. Later on, when I present all legendary artifacts to you, you will see what I mean in detail. Also, the values of legendary artifacts are mostly from pretty high values, such as in multiplayer plus 11%, where you will get ordinary from other artifacts, a high percentage or high likelihood to also get plus 1% and plus 6%. And legendary artifacts often have the maximum value, so for multiplayer plus 11, for World War plus 6%. Legendary artifacts have sometimes even extraordinary values. I mean, in multiplayer, ordinary plus 11% is maximum, but there are also, like we will see later on, legendary artifacts which have plus 12, plus 13, and even plus 13, 14% for multiplayer, and for World War plus 7, 8, and 9, whereby ordinary plus 6% is maximum. Also, legendary artifacts are always 5 stars. You don't need to upgrade them anymore. They are already 5-starred, but you are unable to re-roll them. So their attributes are fixed and you can't change anything about. Let's come to the next question. Legendary artifacts are good, yeah, everybody understood now, but how do you get them? First, about events. If you have events running, which are currently all week starting, you may get to the very highest stage, and therefore completely free unlocking artifacts as last reward for the ordinary free-to-play event. Like all of us can consider and imagine, those artifacts are pretty useful because it is better to have something, even if it's weak compared to others, than to have nothing. But compared to other artifacts, they are obviously not the best ones. Now, the next opportunity you have is the event pass. If you activate the event pass for about €30, you will be able to get additional rewards, and like currently there might be an additional legendary artifact for you. In this case it's the White Death's War Kit for the World War. Only as an example, I got a legendary artifact for free from the last event. There we got the Rosetta Stone over here, which is pretty much not very good, but you can use it in some special cases, like we'll see later on. In events, you also will have the leaderboards, and the leaderboards will have some specific rewards which only can be obtained by the first player, for example, or the first 5 players being ranked in the overall leaderboards. Currently, it's not that interesting artifact, interesting reward. Therefore, players like you see are not giving that much. They are not putting that much energy on, but sometimes there are very, very unique artifacts being able to obtain, and then it will be highly unlikely that you get them, but the chances over there, therefore I have to mention it. You are also able to get from the treasury dock artifacts. Oh, we have over here the Scylla Crown already. There you can see, pay 60 euro and you will get the Scylla Crown. Me personally, it's not that interesting. I don't like the Scylla Crown, but it's a perfect example for seeing the high values. We have a multiplayer artifact already 5-star, all attributes unlocked, and all of them are plus or minus 11%, so maximum. Also, there's the opportunity if you have the offers and you regularly, so periodically, you will be able to get some artifacts over here. I think currently there is no one. Black Friday. Oh yeah, we have one. It's the Rui Scepter. You can charge up to unlock, so you have to buy other things to get access to the Rui Scepter. War Legendary Sale. Also, we have the Leonardo da Vinci machine gun, but you can see it's pretty. This one is not that expensive. Other ones are more than 270 euros, so they are pretty strong actually, but you have to decide whether you are willing to pay more than 200 euro for one single artifact where you can activate 6 of for a mobile game. It's your personal opinion. At least some players messaged me that it should be able, or you should be able, to get direct contact to Nexon. There seems to be someone who is responsible for, I don't know, public relations, or keeping contact with the players and supplying them if they are if they are willing to spend money, and give them special prices to get to the artifacts. But I'm pretty sure not available for everyone. So in general, there keeps being the problem that active artifacts are not always available. There is some kind of intransparency, which artifacts are about, when can I get them, how costly are they even pay to win or free to play, can I get them otherwise, for example, and the prices seem to fluctuate. There was an Worldwar artifact which was pretty expensive for a long time. Then it got really much cheaper after having 2 strong bombers in the game. I think it cost only about 30 euro or something when I bought it. Previously it was over 100 euro. I'm not pretty sure, but it was definitely. So the costs also may fluctuate, and therefore it's as ordinary player, if you don't have an overview, it's hard to see which artifacts are over there. Is the price already low, or is it still high? Will it get lower in the future, and is it sensible to buy it right now? At least we can differentiate between different legendary artifacts. So first we have offensive ones, which obviously are about increasing your own offense of your own troops or decreasing the enemy defense to make it easier to attack. Also in the different direction we have defensive artifacts, strengthening your own defense or weakening the enemy offense to make it easier to defend yourself. We also have loot-oriented ones. I cannot present any one to you because I don't possess any, but those ones are like the pottery, no, not the pottery, the jewelry artifacts, which are probably about all resources looted, gold looted, oil looted, food looted. We also have such ones which are about passive income, which either increase the production rate of your farms, of your oil wells, of your caravans, the road, and probably you also can increase your passive income by having... Oh, I see my vault is ready. I can show it to you. I put about... Here are now 13,768 oil in. Now when I change my artifacts, those ones are not legendary, but legendaries can keep the same effect. So first I switch my ordinary artifacts, which will give me higher values for the vault interest. And now I can also switch one of my legendary artifacts, which is not about vault interest, but it is about vault capacity. I will show it later when I got it out. So from 13,000 oil, I can now put out 19,000 oil. I withdraw it, and instead of depositing 12,500, I'm activating some other artifacts. It's about capacity. Here we have also capacity, and we also have the Rosetta Stone. So instead of 12,500, I can now put in 13,500. And I'm pretty sure you know what I mean. At least we also have a research subsidy, which makes it easier for us to research due to the fact that the costs of our research or even the time is getting reduced. The time is pretty valuable, but as you can imagine, those artifacts or those attributes in artifacts in legendaries are pretty scarce. Also, most often we get only reductions for the library, unfortunately, which is not that big deal because it's easy to get finished with all researches. But, like we will see later on, there are even artifacts which are cutting down time or resource costs for our university research. So this is pretty valuable. Ah yeah, at least there are some side values, such as cost refund for clearing forests and getting some resources back if you are getting robbed. But honestly, I mean, those values are pretty overrated and they are pretty pointless related to other ones which have direct active impacts to you. What is also important to mention is to think about which benefit artifacts are giving to you. So, for example, the Napoleon's Beacon Head is, in my opinion, a really strong legendary artifact for the multiplayer. It gives maximum, so 6%, no, not maximum, but it gives about 6% damage in boost for all of your barrack troops, so for all ones. Also hit points for those all troops. Damage, same for all factory troops. So barrack troops, factory troops, and at least damage for airstrip troops. So this means basically any troop in the game is getting boosted by it. But at the other side, this is only being valuable for you if you are attacking. So if you are defensive, if you are offline, if you are managing to do other things, it is not increasing your resource production, your gain of resources, your research, or even your defense. So if you have multiple artifacts, not only for legendaries, but also this point is being valuable for legendaries, think about which aspect of the game they are boosting. So for example, I have the Rosetta Stone, but instead of having the Rosetta Stone always active, which with its really bad values, which are library, tech, resource cost, vault, capacity, oil from oil wells, I'm always only activating it shortly before depositing oil in my vault. Afterwards, really again deactivating it. So think about your artifacts, mix them around, keep your offense artifacts active then before you go to the multiplayer, and activate your defense artifacts when you have finished raiding and getting to the multiplayer before you get offline, because when you are offline getting attacked, offensive artifacts are not meaning anything to you. No matter whether they are activated, deactivated, only the defensive ones, which are increasing your own defensive capabilities, are really valuable for you. But here we are, what you are waiting for. Let's start with the artifact presentation. First, we have on all multiplayer artifacts. I'm differentiated at first multiplayer, then Worldwar artifacts, and also tried to get some kind of order in it. You will get first to see the artifacts which are pretty much weaker, so therefore also the free ones which you can get for free or for low cost, and then successively they will get to the stronger artifacts and at least to those artifacts which are, in my opinion, the very strongest. There is no coherent complete structure, but the more previous artifacts are definitely weaker than the later ones. Let's start with Saturn Who Helmet. You can see pretty much each chart or each layer of this presentation is made of about the picture of the artifact in the left top corner. In the left bottom corner you see all of the attributes, and below the name in the very central top you will see its first, second and third main categories in which it will get some bonuses to you, and at least also a recommendation for which players this artifact in particular on the best case is recommendable. Saturn Who Helmet has pretty low values, or the maximum low values, which are all about only one. It is about boosting our own defense mostly, and it's recommendable therefore for any player. Nothing to say any more about it. Let's come to the next artifact, which is the Aztec's calendar. It is all about passive income, period. Because you get more gold from caravans, more gold from food from farms, gold from caravans, and 2 times more oil from oil wells. At least you also get some vault interest. You have to be careful with this artifact because you have to think about it is only increasing the production rate for your farms, caravans, and oil wells, which does not mean that the capacity is getting increased. So you will get faster to the maximum capacity, and this automatically also logically means that you have to collect it more often. Otherwise it's getting wasted, and the more production or faster production is done is not bringing any possible or any positive outcome to you. At least you also have vault interest, so pretty much the vault interest is nice to have, but not that big. At least it's recommendable for all players, but the artifact is, compared to others, nearly pointless. Let's get to the next artifact, which is about the Sphinx of Tarako. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Nice to know, this artifact is literally only a bad version of the Rosetta Stone I showed you already in-game. We'll see it later on. It is an event artifact, so you can definitely get it free to play. It has weak passive bony. It's about library tech resource cost getting decreased by 6, vault capacity by 6, oil wells produce faster by 1%. They all can be upgraded, obviously, but those are the basic values. Looted resource refund and forest expansion cost refund. So here you see many of those values which are not, or attributes which are not that valuable. It's recommendable for all players. If you have it, fine, equip it if you don't have other ones, but it's also nearly pointless. Now if you compare, we have the next artifact, the Rosetta Stone, and compare about the values. You see the values, or the, not the values, the attributes are actually completely the same, but the values are only differentiating, and all of them are higher over here. So the Rosetta Stone, nevertheless, is still, compared to others, a more or a less valuable artifact, but it has stronger values in its attributes. So if you have both of them, it's recommendable to use the Rosetta Stone. Let's come to the next artifact. The Scylla Gold Crown. You saw it. You can buy it from the treasury dock. It's about €60, which is a hell lot if you only get some boost in gold looting over here. You will get more gold from the multiplayer, more from mines, caravans, library tech cost, resource cost, a cut you will have, and some ranged infantry damage. So it's basically recommendable for all players. It is more recommendable if you play with ordinary or conventional troop composition such as ranged infantry and howitzers, but it's also more a weaker artifact. Let's get to the next one, the Christmas football. I definitely know that the Christmas football was free to get. Correct me if I'm wrong. There was an event around Christmas, and you could get it if you get the last reward of the event. The Christmas football, firstly, is about boosting your own healing troops. Secondly, about raiding national trade goods. And third, about general HP. Like I mentioned, you get supply vehicle healing plus 11%, also tactical helicopter healing plus 11, general hit points plus 6, national trade good loot chance by about 11%, and enemy missile silo damage minus 6%. Recommendable mostly for players using conventional troops or probably focusing on generals, and it's only for attacking, obviously. You won't get any benefits by having it defensively activated, probably only by generals hit points, but you see it's mostly offensive. The next artifact is the Penguin Phoenix Crown. It's a mixture artifact. It's mostly about passive income and boost your own defense. 2 times the production rate of oil wells is getting improved. Also, all defensive towers damage plus 6%, which is a very good value because it hits all of your towers. All buildings which are shooting getting those additional 6%. It's strong. You get also defender spawn time decreased by 11% and invading barrack troops damaged by 11, but most players don't use barrack troops. Recommendable for all players, a more weak artifact. Next is Tokugawa's Iyashu's Helm. Boost your own defense and mitigate resource loss, so it's only about defense. Recommendable for all players, especially for those ones which are more offline or to activate this artifact if you are getting offline. You won't get any boost or any positive bonus by it if you activate it for offense, so when you are attacking. The next artifact is the personal computer. It's firstly about passive income and growth. Second, about research and mitigating your own losses. It's less recommendable in my opinion. Library tech resource cost minus 13%, loot resource refund minus plus 12, oil wells produce 12% more, 12%, and you get more vault interest and capacity, which is cool, but yeah. What is pretty interesting about this artifact, it's the first one you can see what I mentioned with values which are higher than 11%, 12, 13, and even 14%, which makes it very unique. No other ordinary artifacts can get to those high values. It's recommendable for all players and subsidizes your own research. Activate before you research, obviously, and then afterwards you can deactivate. It boosts your own vault interest, so you can use it before deploying, depositing some resources in the vault and before getting them out again. Next we have the Book of 5 Rings. It increases only the passive income by your vault, but this massively. It also has one value about an attribute about all defensive towers damage, which is good, but mostly you see it's about the vault. If you are not using the vault that extensively, it might be very uninteresting for you. I personally use the vault. I have calculated it through. If you have very strong ordinary artifacts as well as this one, you may be able to get to over 100% increased vault storage, so vault capacity as well as interest. So you may be able to store over 22,000 oil, even more, inside the vault, and then afterwards, after 24 hours, get over 45,000 oil back from it. So over 20,000 oil for doing nothing any day is pretty strong. Therefore, I can only not recommend you buy it, but to have an eye to the vault attributes and values in artifacts, because they can be pretty valuable if you have them once. Next attribute is Augustus Statue Muscle Cuirass. It is about boosting generals. It slows down enemy spawn time. Secondly, you see most values, 4 of them, all of the attributes have plus 11% value, and 4 of the attributes are about generals, and the last is about enemy spawn time. Recommendable for players focusing on generals, and it's for attacking, so activate before you get to raid and afterwards substitute it before you get offline if you have a stronger defensive one. At least also we have Admiral G's helmet. It's a mixture artifact about weakening invading generals and strengthening your own defenders. It's recommendable for all players in general, and the defensive use definitely is the majority, so activate it before you get offline. Otherwise, you can substitute it before getting to the multiplayer. Invading generals damage minus 6, invading defender spawn time, enemy defender spawn time plus 6, defender damage plus 6, defender hit points plus 11, and invading generals hit points plus 11%. Next, we have the Sword of Gujan. It's a mixture artifact. It strengthens your own infantry guys, improve resources and defenders, and slows down enemy defender spawn time. You see the heavy infantry is boosted enormously over here. Also enemy defender spawn time getting increased, so gets them spawn slower. You have all resources looted increased, which is really great always. And you have defender damage also increased by 11%. Highly recommendable for APC players, because those infantries which are getting spawned by the APCs running in front of them, taking the damage and getting damage to enemy defenders and buildings are getting boosted highly. And it's for attacking raiding, so also activate it before you raid. Defensively, it has less matter for you. Next artifact is the Mask of Agamemnon. It increases your own defense, and it increases it pretty strongly. That was also the decision for me to buy it. It has all attributes value up by 11%. So maximum for ordinary artifacts, tower hit points, tower damage, catapult hit points, catapult damage, and at least all defensive towers damage. Which means the towers are getting boosted if you have researched this artifact completely. You will get tower damage up by 40%. It's staggering. And also the catapult damage by 40%, which is strong. All other defense buildings which are shooting getting in maximum more damage by about 20%. In my opinion, highly recommendable. I'm not sure, but I think it was also not that expensive compared to other artifacts. Recommendable for all players, mostly if you are offline. Next artifact, the Stoppler Revolver. It boosts the offense in general, and it boosts your defense as well as the oil loot. Defender damage plus 6, fighter damage plus 6, general damage plus 6, oil looted plus 6, ranged infantry damage plus 6. Recommendable for all players. It's for attacking, raiding, so also activate it before you go to multiplayer afterwards. It's not that useful for your own defense. Next artifact is Napoleon Bicorn Set. Also, in my opinion, one of the very strongest legendary artifacts available. But that's only my subjective opinion. It boosts your offense, so complete all of your offensive troops. All troops you have to get and attack an enemy base are getting strengthened, at least in their offense, most in their hit points also. Barrack troops, factory troops, astro troops all get plus 6% damage, and barrack troop as well as factory troops also get plus 6% hit points. I don't think I have to say anything more about it. It's about attacking, so also recommendable for all players because you cannot play any troops which are getting not boosted over here. Next we have the Nefertiti bust. So now and the following artifacts are the most valuable legendaries if it comes to resource gain additional. It's boosting your loot and it supports raiders, the Nefertiti bust. All resources looted by staggering 2 times 11%, so in maximum level plus 40%. If you have already 2 ordinary good artifacts, which are about plus 11%, fully leveled means 40, 2 artifacts means 80, plus the Nefertiti bust, which means 120% possibly additional gain from resources. Let's keep this in mind for the next artifact. We also get raider damage and raider hit points over here, as well as mortar troops, but I don't understand who is playing mortar troops for real. It's recommendable for playing who are using raiders and in general for raiding. Next artifact is the absolute supreme artifact if it is about looting. Captain's Crux de Guerre, correct me if I'm wrong, it's about loot. I wrote it in capital letters because it is absolutely unbelievable. You get food, gold, oil looted plus 11% and all resource looted 2 times by 11%. If you stack this up, or if you are calculating, completely leveled is this artifact valuable for about plus 60% for each of the resource. 60% more food, 60% more gold, 60% more oil. And this is only one legendary artifact. You can sideways have 2 other legendaries as well as 2 other ordinary ones activated. Let's get to the very extreme. You have 2 ordinary artifacts, both have 2 attributes plus 11% all resources, which means 40%, 2 attributes, 2 artifacts 80%, the Nefertiti bust 120% in some, and over here again additional 60%, which means 180% additional loot. Just imagine raiding 20,000 or even only 10,000 oil at an enemy and you will get 28,000 without any other bonuses. I don't think I have to say anything about it. If you get your hands on the Captain's Crux de Guerre, it will definitely make you the whole game, the whole time you will have activated it for the future much easier to play because resources are always the base which your own progress is getting built on. Next we have the Enigma machine. It supports your own heavy tank attacks and it has unique values. It makes quick victory easier and speeds up your university research. Pretty valuable in my opinion. You get quick victory time plus 11%, heavy tank attack speed by 11%, enemy defender spawn time 11%, university research -6, library research -6. Definitely recommendable. I don't know whether it's able to being purchased. I saw it in an event in the leaderboards reward, so only a few players could get hands on. Getting 11% more quick victory time is very valuable. Not only having your heavy tank attack being increased, but the attack speed is also valuable because it's not sensible to have a heavy tank being very powerful but only shooting, it feels like all 2 minutes. Shooting faster and dealing a little bit less damage is more sensible than only shooting each minute or so. Enemy defender spawn time getting increased is always valuable, especially if you get high values such as plus 11%. And over here we not only have library research time cost cut, we also have a cut in our university research time. And especially for the players of you which have finished their university, they know what a pain in the ass it is to research the last capstones or the last researches. And getting a 6% off of it is so valuable. Recommendable for players using HTs, heavy tanks, and also players who are attacking. Also, commando attackers, near each attacker is getting a really bonus if enemy defenders are spawning slower. Let's get to one of the very last multiplayer artifacts, the Antikythera mechanism. I saw it in the leaderboard rewards. I don't know whether you can purchase it. It's about increasing loot extraordinarily and boosting your heavy tanks and bombers. Heavy tank damage plus 12, so higher than ordinary maximum of 11. National trade good loot chance plus 12. Oil loot plus 12. All resources plus 7. And bomber hit points plus 7. Recommendable for heavy tank and bomber users, and it's about attacking and raiding. Oh, one too fast. Over here we have the Lewis Chessman. It boosts the raider looting. Recommendable for players using raiders. It's about attacking and raiding. You will get unique and extraordinary values, which means the unique one is if you are attacking similarly to your own defense when forest defenders spawn. If you set your first troop and you have Lewis Chessman active, 1 up to 10 raiders will appear from the forest and attack with you. Also, you will get plus 12 and even plus 13 and 14% values. So high for national trade good loot chance, raiders damage, raiders hit points, and all resources looted. Don't know how costly it is, if it is purchasable, but I nevertheless would think about buying it. Next, we have the video game console. I think it was a pretty special legendary artifact. Have never seen it so far, only met it in my research. It boosts your looting in extraordinary way and fastens up your rally, which is unique. It's about heavy tank and increasing bomber strength. Rally cooldown is getting decreased by 11%, which is unique, so you can rally more often. All resources looted by 12, oil looted by 14, heavy tank damage by 13, and bomber same by 13%. So, like before, heavy tank and bomber users are mostly benefiting from it. It's about attacking and raiding. Let's come to the last multiplayer artifact. It's about the Ruri Scepter. It weakens enemy defense and does this strongly. You get enemy defender spawn time minus 11%. Oh, this should be plus 12%, 11. You get enemy anti-tank gun damage minus 11, enemy catapult damage minus 11, all enemy defensive towers hit points and damage minus 6. Recommendable for all players in general. Currently you can have it by charging up with some online purchases, and it is about attacking because it decreases enemy defensing values. But now let's come to the Worldwar artifacts. We already have 32 minutes in. I want to go faster right now, so I won't read all of the values to you. First, we have the demarcation stone. You can get it from the loot chest. So if you're getting to Marco Polo, you can buy with some rubies, some troop chests, and then there you have a little 1-digit % chance to get the demarcation stone. Honestly, I already got 2 or 3 of them, so they don't seem to be that much rare. If you get them, hands on them, and you don't have better ones, simply activate them. It's recommendable mostly for players using conventional troops or players using APCs, because infantry guys are getting a huge increase. Otherwise, if you are playing with factory troops, it mostly will not bring you that much, only by a decreasing enemy defense towers damage. Next, we have General Pershing's Bas Relief. It's also a free-to-play event artifact, so far as I would know. It boosts your offense generally, and it's also about players, or recommendable for players using conventional troops, so healers, shooters, and howitzers. Also players using APCs, due to the fact that the infantry is getting better. Players who are using factory troops are not getting any benefit by it. Next, we have the White Death's War Kit. Currently, still, again, available for €30 if you are using the event pass in-game and finishing the event for the last stage reward. It's first weakening enemy defense moderately, and secondly strengthening your own sniper towers. Recommendable it is for all players, and especially for players who are aiming for a strong defensive base, due to the fact that your sniper towers slightly getting increased better than nothing. And it gives a slight support for guerrilla players because you delay the enemy spawn, but delayed enemy spawn is good for any player. Next, we have the 10th Mountain Division War Kit. It is first and extraordinarily, about boosting APCs, and second about boosting Gatling and infantry offense. So therefore, players using APCs are getting the most favor out of it, and secondly, it is slightly also supporting guerrilla players. But don't let yourself being decepted by it. Having APC damage and APC hit points increased is nice to have, but APCs shall not be those troops which are getting as a meat shield or getting some damage to the enemy troops in, they shall keep spawning infantry guys, and those infantry guys are the meat shields running in front of and dealing the damage. So therefore, I think it should be more favorable if you get or would get those bonuses in for your infantries and not the APCs, but nevertheless, it's better to have nothing. It's better to have this than nothing. Next, we have the ZG1229 Vampire. Haven't ever heard about it, only in my research I got to it. It strengthens your own sniper towers extraordinarily, and it strengthens APCs and mortar troops. I don't know why, but it is. So sniper towers getting increased, enemy tower damage getting decreased, mortar troop increase, and again APC hit points. So only recommendable in my opinion for players using APCs. You could also use it for a defense base, but actually I would not recommend you paying for such an artifact with such bad values. I also don't know what Nexon thought about when increasing the mortar troop hit points. Haven't ever seen any guy using the mortar troops sensefully. Next, we have the Great Imperial Crown. It's about a mixture of values. It's extraordinarily boosting them. It strengthens your own defense and weakens invading heavy tanks and RPGs. So recommendable for all players, but especially for players who are aiming for a strong defense base. I don't think it is good. Overall, if it's free to play, I would get it. Otherwise, I would not pay any euro for it. Next, we have the Vespa 150 TAP. And always when I'm seeing it, I'm laughing so hard. I have a side question for you. What do you think actually? Do you think the driver of this Vespa is sitting on top of the cannon? And at the other side, as this cannon is firing, I'm always imagining a picture in my head where the complete guy is getting blown off the Vespa due to the fact that this little Vespa is unable to handle the massive backfire or whatever from this cannon. But that's a funny side information. This artifact is being recommended or recommendable for players using, again, conventional troops such as howitzers, infantrymen, healers, but also players using Gatling guns, but I don't think many players are. Next artifact is the Da Vinci's machine gun, which is currently being purchased for about 60 euro. So not that expensive, but it's also not one of the best compared to others. It is about strengthening your Gatling guns, same like previously. I don't know many players who are playing them, and it weakens invading factory troops, which is valuable. So recommendable for conventional troop users, for example howitzers, and players using Gatling guns. Next we have the Tozona sword. It supports your own offense with ordinary compositions, so like I mentioned, healers, shooters, howitzers, recommendable for players who are using such conventional troops. You could also tell them or call them barrack troops. Then we have Sanada Yukimuro's armor, supports guerrilla attacks, and it also supports RPG as well as your own defense. Recommendable for players using guerrillas as well as rear RPGs. Defensively, it gives you a unique bonus because your castle gets some resistance value, such as spawning 1 up to 10 sword saints when getting destroyed. Next we have the ASM 135 anti-satellite missile. Like it already looks like, it is about your missile silo. So strengthening your own defense, recommendable for all players, and players aiming for a strong defense base. Then we have the Northern Bomb Sight. In my opinion, not a very valuable artifact. I would not want to get hands on even, except for it would be free to play. It strengthens your defense extraordinarily and strengthens your offense in a unique way. So first, your APC in offense get some kind of resistance value by getting destroyed, spawning 1 up to 10 marines from it. Then we also have some unique values such as coalition troop damage and some other values which are all of them extraordinarily high, not only being restricted by about maximum plus 6%. I mean, they have plus and minus 8%. Recommendable for all players, especially for those ones using APCs. Then we have the Gemini 8 helmet. It boosts your factory troop offense, and this in an extraordinary way. Not only plus 6, but plus 7%. I mean, attack helicopter, yeah, it's pretty pointless. Armored cars, also not used that often, mostly only as troop card. But bazookas, heavy tanks, and barrack troops are getting boosted. If you can get hands on, probably think about if it's not too expensive, recommendable for all players. We have the Red Baron's engine, boosts your air units, so offensively, and weakens enemy fighter offense. Fighter damage +6, oh, I did not want to read it. Recommendable for players using heavy tanks and players using bombers. Next we have Da Vinci's Flying Machine. Honestly, one of the very, very strongest artifacts out there, in my opinion. You getting your fighters boosted insanely, and it also boosts your heavy tanks. I mean, you get fighter hit points 2 times increased by 6%, which is in sum a lot. Recommendable for players using planes, obviously, which are most of us. So basically anyone, and players using heavy tanks. Oh, come on. Next we have the Joyeuse Sword, which is about boosting heavy tanks, so your own offense. Recommendable for players who are using heavy tanks, and again, players using bombers. The Gemini 8 Gloves, which are boosting your defense extraordinarily and weaken enemy defense. So it's a mixed artifact, defensively as well as offensively, recommendable for all players, especially for players which are aiming for a strong defense base. You get 2 times values about all defensive towers hit points and damage, and it's not only 6 but 7%. Recommendable. Leonidas Bust is an artifact which was available to purchase during the last days. It is about boosting your own RPGs, so offensively, and giving unique defensive resistance values. The resistance value is that your mercenary camp deploys Spartans when destroyed. Actually, I'm not sure whether the Flampanzer will still spawn from it, because it has already a resistance function, but you will get 1 up to 10 Spartans being deployed. And I'm not sure, but I think those Spartans are pretty strong because they increase in their strength if they are getting wounded. It's recommendable for players, obviously, which are using RPGs, and players who are facing tough bases, so level 300 bases and higher on regular basis, because the quick victory time is getting increased by 6, maximum of about 15%, which gives you some more time to breath if you are facing a hard defense base. Next we have the T-34 tank engine, and like the name implicates, it makes the difference in the heavy tank business. So if you are a heavy tank player and you want to get some top tier attacks in, I'm pretty sure you won't get around this artifact. It boosts all values by about 7%. You get more heavy tank damage and more heavy tank hit points, and you get a hard decrease for enemy heavy tank players attacking you. So obviously recommendable for heavy tank players and players who are aiming for a strong defense base. Next we have the Worldwar Mark II. The Worldwar Mark II is an artifact I purchased for myself, and I have to tell you honestly, I have some hard cognitive dissonance about it. I paid, and I have to be honest to you, 270 euro for it. So that's why I have cognitive dissonance, asking myself still currently whether it was worth to purchase it, but it gives you, like the T-34 engine for heavy tank players, all what you need for a guerrilla attack player. You get all enemy defensive tower hit points decreased, which is useful for any player. Enemy defender spawn time by 8% up. Totally useful. Guerrilla damage as well as hit points boosted, and your own airstrip troops increased. So your planes will make more damage to support your guerrillas. Little side information, airstrip troops also mean all troops which are getting deployed by troops from the airstrip. So paratroopers getting deployed by transporters are also boosted by these attributes. Next, we have the RQ2 Pioneer, weakens invading bombers extraordinarily and increase your own anti-air defense. Recommendable for all players, especially for players aiming for a strong enemy defense base. If you are struggling with enemy primarily using air units, it's also recommendable for you. High values and decreasing the potential of invading air units strongly. If you are attacking enemy base, keep your eyes up or open. If the enemy has this artifact, it will make you a hard life. Next we have the VZ9 Avroca, which is pretty comparable to the previous artifact, so makes a hard life for attackers, and it's or his or her air units. It weakens invading bombers and fighters strongly and strengthens your own anti-air defense. Same, recommendable for all players, especially players aiming for strong defense base and players struggling with enemies primarily using air units. Then we have Julius Caesar statue. It strengthens its own and weakens the enemy generals and barrack troops. Recommendable for all players, especially for players using and focusing on generals. So if your generals are high level and you are also often facing enemies with high generals, it might be an invaluable option for you to get this nasty Eisenhower and Zhukov more easy down. Then we have Captain McConnell's hero example. It strengthens your own fighters extraordinarily. And we have one pretty, confusing value over here. It is a Worldwar artifact and we get plus 8% oil looted. I mean, Nexon. Really? Who is caring about the direct loot you are getting inside an attack? It's pretty low. You get at nearly each multiplier attack, multiple times more. So I was first confused and wrote down values correct, because I was not sure whether the attribute oil looted was correct, but it seems like it is correct, so I'm still confused. Recommendable for all players, especially players focusing on air units, such as planes, and players focusing on generals. Then we have Ramses II's Abu Simbel. It strengthens the own defense extraordinarily and weakens guerrilla and RPG attackers. Recommendable for all players, especially those ones focusing for a strong defense base. We are not only getting plus or minus 7%, not also minus or plus 8. We are getting staggering plus and minus 9% over here, which is nearly comparable to multiplayer artifacts. I'm always astonished about this artifact. All defense towers damaged by 9%. Defender spawn time minus 9. Invading bazookas and guerrillas damage really down, and all defensive towers damage again 9%. Fully leveled, this would mean plus 38% own defensive towers damage. It's completely crazy because all of your shooting towers are getting boosted by it. I have to be honest, if this artifact will be available sometime and it is not too expensive, I will definitely consider buying it, because the boosts which it is giving to the user are not compared to any other artifact in the game, in my opinion. Next we have the Desert Storm PSN 8 Man Pack. Also pretty strong, have never seen it live, so I also saw it now in my research. It increases the command flexibility in a unique way and strengthens factory troop offense extraordinarily. Recommendable for all players, especially players who are using factory troops, which should be most of us currently. It decreases the rally cooldown by 11%. And increases the rally duration, so you can rally more longer and more often. Factory troops hit points and damage by staggering 9% up, and at least enemy towers damage by 9% down. It's really strong, same as the previous artifact. Try to get your hands on. This was the last artifact so far. Thank you for watching. If you have any suggestions, put it down in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave me a comment whether you enjoyed it. See you soon, your DomiNation tips.